Hello, everybody. Today, we have a hot button topic and new research topic. Today, I'm going to be blowing the lid and reviewing some of the latest research on POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and is there a connection between POTS and the big C, COVID, you know what? Without further ado, we're going to go deep dive into some of the latest research. Here we go, everybody. Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Maggie Yu, and I am a functional and holistic medicine physician and the creator of the Transform Protocol to turn around POTS, autoimmunity, mast cell, histamine, you name it. And today, I'm really excited because I love being a research nerd and a research sleuth because you know what? We're all really smart here. And what I want to do is I want to break this topic that I've been talking about from the mountaintops for the last 3 years or more. The topic is, and I have said this for a very long time, that POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, say that 10 times fast, dysautonomia, and long haul are actually the same thing and the same syndrome, describing the same symptoms. And when I started saying this on my lives and on my medical trainings 3 years ago, it was not really believed or accepted. And it was a shocking new claim. And yet it was based on my own personal experience and the experience of the thousands of people that I've worked with, not only with autoimmunity, but their symptoms and POTS got worse or newly diagnosed after having long haul. And I kept saying, this is my experience. This is my experience, because truly the research was lagging behind what I was observing real time on the field. Now, why is this important? Let's talk about that. And those of you that are watching right now, I love it. Lindsay's already telling me you're watching from Florida. Can you guys let me know in chat where you're watching from? And if you tell me why you're interested in understanding if there is a link. Do you believe there's a link between POTS and long haul? Type it in chat. Is there a connection? And do you know that because it's from your own experience and from the experience of watching somebody that you care about go through this, right? Let's talk about Courtney's coming in from California, Kimberly, Arizona, Lori is in Florida, Corey is Texas. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And here's the thing. If you know somebody who can benefit from watching this, tag them, share this with them right now so they can watch it now or they can watch it later. So I want to thank everybody who's in here watching right now. Thank you so much. Now, Kim in chat on YouTube, thank you for watching on YouTube. And everybody who's watching in YouTube right now, and if you're not watching on YouTube, we're going to supply a link so you can hop over to YouTube to check it out. But Kim Miller's watching from YouTube, and she says from her experience, what was that quote? Oh, I missed it. There were so many. Kim says, absolutely a connection, diagnosed with both. Just wanted to show you that. So this is real life experience. This is real people, real diagnoses, real symptoms with this. And here's the problem. Why is this important? I just want to give you some statistics. Right now, we know that there is 7, and I'm going to use certain terms because if I use the right term, sometimes YouTube will flag it or Facebook will flag it. So, example, right now, 7.5 million people have been unalived by COVID. Okay. And when we look at the number of infections worldwide, there have been reported and documented 750 million of those infections, of which 10% of those people will experience what we call long haul, which means that even past 12 weeks is already a dang long time, but up to 10% of people of that 750 million, which is an undercall, by the way, because think about how many people have it or have had it and never was diagnosed, never took testing, right? So we're talking over 1 billion, right? Infections. Now of that, up to 10% of the people will experience long haul, and that's reported. And the problem is that's of the people who actually go in and say, oh, wow, I have these symptoms and I'm reporting it. And they have to also have testing that confirms that they had it in the first place. So confirm why, this is wise, up to 10% will experience long haul. Now, let's talk about it. A lot of people themselves may not even be aware, but now when we're here talking about this, they'll start thinking back, oh, wow, I've had these health symptoms and they did get worse after the big C. Okay. And until someone points it out to them, sometimes it can happen so insidiously that you don't realize that there's a connection. So for me, it's really important to highlight that connection because the number of people long haul impacts is astronomical. And today I'm actually going to go over some studies as to what percentage, based on the latest research, of people with long haul do you think actually have POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome? I would love everybody to type that number in chat that you're guessing. Type it in chat. Now, some of the people who I'm working with currently, don't cheat. I know we talked about this because we reviewed some of this. But those of you who haven't worked with me before and you're taking a guess, I want to know what percentage of people do you think that have been diagnosed with long haul qualify for really having POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome? Type it in chat. And as you're doing that, I'm seeing Courtney says 65, someone else just says 75, Jill says 80. Uh, and if you ask doctors this, what do you think they would say the number is? Okay. If you ask doctors this, you guys are a very smart audience. And some of you I know are from working with me, and we've been talking about this. Corey says 95. What do you think your doctors would say? Type it in chat, right? There's a huge disparity between what patients like you and I know and what doctors believe. Okay, there's a lack of awareness in doctors in general about what POTS is anyway. How many people here have POTS or dysautonomia and the doctors don't even know what the heck it is? And if you're watching right now, let's talk about this for a second. What is POTS? Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, right? So just to put everybody on the same level playing field, right? When you're looking at POTS, it's a syndrome that causes people when they are changing positions, postural orthostatic, meaning like when they change positions, orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, their heart rate can go fast. Now, that's not it. That's more like just a description of one of the symptoms of it. But when people have POTS, blood pressure can go up and down with positional changes. You don't even have to have positional changes for that to happen, by the way, because how many people with POTS, they don't even have to change position and they notice that there is either blood pressure changes causing dizziness, nausea, vertigo, or causing the heart rate to go up or down, right? You don't even have to change position. And it's also associated with symptoms like brain fog, fatigue, and more, it's also associated with other mysterious symptoms like sometimes joint pain, increased reactions to food. And if somebody has any sort of immune system problem going on, like autoimmune disease, suddenly those things that were kind of mild suddenly become more. And your doctors will say, not only do they say they don't know if you have POTS, they don't know what POTS is, but they'll say that the other symptoms aren't clearly identified with anything. They're all in your head. Okay. And this is where POTS itself is a very misunderstood, underevaluated, underdiagnosed condition, which most medical doctors don't know anything about. Now, you put that on top of the large, we're talking, hundreds of millions of people that have long haul. The latest study that came out that we're going to dig into today is that, guess what? At least in this particular study, 79, close to 80% of people with long haul have POTS. Okay. And this is why a lot of people, with POTS, with long haul will go into, and I have worked with many people who are in long haul clinics and they are being treated for long haul. We had an interview with Joel, who was in a specialty clinic in New York. This was about, 8 months ago. We had an interview with Joel talking about how patients who have long haul with all these symptoms, guess what they are? Guess what long haul symptoms are? Dizziness, vertigo, nausea, stomach upset, pain, dizziness, heart rate, blood pressure changes, right? And other neurological symptoms. Guess what long haul looks and sounds exactly like? POTS, okay? Because they're the same thing, okay? So when I was talking about that even a year ago when I was interviewing Joel, it was something that's like unheard of. It was at that time, it was like one of the best specialty centers in New York City. Even then was like, oh, there's a connection between long haul and POTS. And I kept saying, AKA Dr. Potts here keeps saying, hey, they're the same thing because there's the symptom overlap between them, basically 100%. Okay. So this is really important because we can now start to understand, why do people get long haul? What are the targets in long haul? And why do people get POTS? POTS, it's not a mystery, not to me. And it also goes towards solutions. And the most important thing is, for me, I've always said POTS is a solvable problem. And but now that we're talking about, overlap, 100% overlap symptoms, is long haul a solvable problem? The answer would be yes, yes, and hell yes. What I would love to do is have anybody in chat, if you've worked with me dealing with POTS or long haul, I would love for you to answer that question, and don't take it from me, right? But I would love anybody who's worked with me dealing with POTS or long haul to type down, to share what your experience has been. Can you answer the question if POTS or long haul is a solvable problem? Type that in chat, right? Patty's asking, well, then how, right? Corey says POTS equals heart goes fast syndrome. If you say it like that, you realize how ridiculous that is. That's interesting, right? The word POTS, P-O-T-S, stands for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. All it is describing the symptom. It's not really a diagnosis. It's just describing, oh, you have these symptoms, really. And so there's a lot of diagnosis problem, meaning people are like, do I qualify for diagnosis or not? Do I qualify for diagnosis the long haul or not? And what I'm here to tell you is it doesn't matter. The best that doctors have right now is a word that describes the symptoms, right? And the worst is no diagnosis, no treatment, and they don't even know what the heck POTS is. So today we're going to do some deep dive into some of the medical literature and latest research that's come out. So what I want to start with is that in 2022, there was actually some early studies, the earliest studies to come out where there was even a suggestion that long haul could be related with POTS, was 2022. We had a study in, where is it? Nature Cardiovascular Research, okay, in 2022. And this title of the study said that there was an apparent risk of POTS diagnosed after COVID-19, but the vaccination as well as the infection. And when you look at that study, because thinking about that, it's very preliminary. There weren't a lot of people at that time, and not a lot was known about that there was such a thing as long haul. If you think about it, long haul is defined as after 12 weeks, you still continue to have symptoms. And so around 2021, 2022, there wasn't really enough time to really call something long haul. So at that time, this particular study came out and they said that there was an increase already in association with people with long haul, and they named it linked with postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, but nothing definitive. It's like early. And over the course of the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years, we've come out with more and more and more data. And so today I am going to be a data geek and a data sleuth. And what I want to do is I want to go through this latest study that came out in 2025. Looking at this study, it looks at, oh, there it is. Thank you. This came out February, just like a month and a half ago. Who's a research nerd and would love to know what the latest data and research says? Research nerd, who wants data? You're going to learn more about this than your doctors will as we go through this article. I promise, because I guarantee none of them have read this. When you look at this particular article, it was published February. And in the background, it talks about like just defining what long haul is and all that. Now on page 5, I'm going to go through some of these interesting results that came out. Okay. Now, what it found here, and I want to show you guys this. This is the paragraph that I really want you guys to pay attention to. So overall, 79% of the participants that were diagnosed with long haul met the diagnostic criteria for having POTS. Period. Number one. Number two, an additional 15% of the participants were like borderline so close. So meaning like 79% plus 15% is 94%. So if you loosen the criteria a little bit to include slightly borderline, we're looking at 94%. If you only included people who are like for sure 100%, that is 79, 80%. So I think Jill said 80% and somebody else said 80%. Whoever the heck said 80%, you're bang on, period, number one. Now, here's another interesting part of the study, okay, which says that women, there was a certain percentage of the candidates. Let me take a look. What percent of the cohort were women? It was really interesting. I think it was like 80%, 70 some odd percent, 86% were women. Let me take a look. Well, women compared to men was 5-1, just so you know. And I can't find where it is at this moment. Let's see if they showed the women. Well, from what I remembered on here, at least it was in the 80s percentage. It was women to men. It was like 85.9% was women versus men. So a lot of these questions that come up in the past is, why do women get immune dysfunction or autoimmune issues more than men? And there's this whole perception that women are whiners and not to be believed, or they don't know. And I just want to show you that the data, actually, the research backs this up, in that, POTS is actually, in this study, invariably, the percentage of women that got POTS as a diagnosis compared to those that fulfills that criteria versus the men was way more, like 5 to 1, 5 times more likely in women than it is in men. So there is absolutely true, based on research, a total difference between the number of women that get it versus men. So it's not an accident, it's a statistical scientific fact. The other interesting part of the study that I want to point out is this. This is what I've been saying all along. When we look at this particular paragraph here talking about the big C, is it a trigger for dysautonomia? I love that the researchers who did this study are smart enough to call POTS dysautonomia as well. And I want to point out to you that whether it's POTS or dysautonomia, we're describing the same thing. Okay. Some people use the name, and some doctors will use the name dysautonomia, which is more describing it. It's interesting because POTS is just saying you have fast heart rate syndrome, right? That changes the position, which I think Corey or somebody else in chat said. Dysautonomia, it's actually a better term to describe the symptoms, in terms of the fact that autonomic nervous system is a nervous system in your body, right? Dysautonomia means that the nervous system in your body aren't balanced. So let's pop out of the screen for a second. Let's talk about the screen for a second. So when we're talking about dysautonomia, I just want a really simple concept here is that, and you're going to know more than your doctors once you've heard this, is that we have what's called the autonomic nervous system. It is comprised of the parasympathetic nervous system, which we call rest and digest, and the sympathetic nervous system. When someone has dysautonomia, there's a misfiring so that they're not balancing each other out. The sympathetic fight or flight is overfiring, and there is an inability of the parasympathetic, the calm and digest, to come up to balance it out. That balance is off. Okay. And that is definitely one of the underlying trigger causes of POTS or dysautonomia. There's a nervous system dysregulation with which they are not balancing each other out. Okay. Hold that thought, because that's going to come up later on when someone says, how do you solve this problem? Well, what's causing this nervous system dysregulation, right? We should be asking that question instead. But instead, what we're doing here is we send people with POTS, postural orthostatic fast heart rate syndrome, to who? Who do we send? How many of you with POTS or don't have the diagnosis have been sent to the cardiologist? Type in chat. Type it in chat, right? And the problem is, it's not a heart problem. Okay. The word dysautonomia actually describes it better. It's more of an imbalance of the nervous system, which it is not a cardiologist's heart problem. Okay. So Patty says, me, right? And Kimberly says, I was sent to Mayo, right? And some people think because I'm going to Mayo, I'm going to Johns Hopkins, that's going to solve this problem. No, whatever people tell me, and you tell me what happened, Kimberly, and what happened when you go to the specialty pot center is you're really there to see if you can get the name on it. Is it? And people, the best that happens is, oh yes, you qualify to have the name of the diagnosis. Congratulations, you have POTS or you have dysautonomia, but no real solutions. Recently, there was actually a study from Harvard that came out, a summary around POTS. And in the article from Harvard, it actually talks about how the treatment for POTS is limited to really medication or drink more salt and water. Now, here's the thing is, if that solved this nervous system disorder, we don't need to have this discussion, okay? How many people have gone to the cardiologist and that didn't help you, right? How many people have been to specialty centers only to be given the diagnosis, but no real solutions for this problem? Right? And how many people have tried the medication, the heart medications we give for POTS dysautonomia, and haven't had any change or worsening of the symptoms, right? How many people tried the salt and water route and haven't had real solutions either? Put that in chat, right? I mean, I really want to like playful out here. I love it. Andrea says, I got diagnosed at Cleveland Clinic, but the doctors around here don't know how to treat it in Jersey. Even then, right? Cleveland Clinic is one of the functional medicine centers, and they have a POTS. They have a POTS clinic, And Olivia was sharing, Olivia, one of the clients we've worked with, was sharing her experience having in even a functional medicine POTS clinic about the lack of real solutions there is for POTS, even in functional medicine clinics. So, totally get this journey, right? And Thea says exactly, right? No solutions. LMNT helps for, which is salts, right? Electrolytes, helps for hydration, but doesn't fix the problem. Right. So we're sitting here like, oh, we have this nervous system is firing. We got all these blood pressure and heart rate problems. And I just went back to the fact that there is a nervous system problem. So what I want to show you is something really cool in the study that I wanted to point out. That's why I love the study, and I wanted to share with you the latest research here. In this section that's talking about, is the big C a trigger for dysautonomia? Is that even a question? I mean, when you have 79% of individuals with long haul with it, can we say that there is absolutely, yes, infectious agents or super infectious agents can be a trigger for POTS? I mean, that's not a question. We already know the answer. Type it in chat if you know the answer. To me, anybody who's worked with me would know this is a yes, yes, and a hell yes. Now, here's the really important part here I freaking love, because wait, there's more. The plot thickens, okay? This section says generalized hypermobility, and particularly hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS, is associated with POTS, listing it as fact. Now, what I want to tell you is research after research is coming out that says when people have POTS, there's also this Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a really common autoimmune disorder, a dysregulation of the immune system that's for many people genetically linked as well. And so about 6 months ago, another research article came out that actually says POTS is linked with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and what else? Mast cell activation and histamine intolerance, an allergy-related irritant of the immune system. So the plot is thickening and the research is coming out. And this is what I've said 3 years ago, everybody, is that POTS, number one, is an autoimmune. It's linked with autoimmunity, meaning a dysregulation of the immune system. And now that we have the big C coming in, when we have a super infectious agent like the big C, guess what? The infectious agent is infecting your body, triggering an immune response, your immune system to come up and try to fight it. But what makes it a super agent is that it is a super hyper irritant of the immune system for people who have autoimmune genetics or already have an autoimmune disease or predisposition. So, known fact, this study confirms and reiterates the study came out 6 months ago is that POTS is linked with autoimmune issues. How many people knew that? Type it in chat. Okay. And this is where we start going from people being treated, the medical gaslighting that's involved, which is that the medical doctors don't know what POTS is. They don't know and understand long haul, right? And they certainly don't understand anything about autoimmune issues. And now what I'm here to tell you is the reason the big C and autoimmunity is so linked is because the way the virus attacks your body, it actually is so irritating and inflammatory for the immune system that it starts to trigger. Let's say, like I have mixed connective tissue disorder and I have Hashimoto's. So my immune system loves to mistake my thyroid as a germ. And it loves to mistake like my joints as a germ. Okay. That's a genetic and also a immune dysregulation I already have. When I got COVID and I got long haul, for example, those symptoms got worse. Joint pain got worse. Brain fog got worse. My hormones, my thyroid hormones, as well as my other hormones. And those are some of the connections that I just freaking over the last couple of years love to just clear up for everybody, is to understand that the autoimmune triggers are really attacking all these different targets. And in each individual that has this autoimmune predisposition, each person's target is slightly different or very different. So there's a huge, huge link, just so you guys know, between autoimmunity and POTS. And Jill just said that, Jill says, all my autoimmune issues are linked, but no doctor I talk to will believe me. This is the medical gaslighting piece that comes in. And I really want to reaffirm, I'm going to ask you guys this, because it's something I experienced, right? When I went into early menopause at the age of 36, when I had to discover myself 3 years later that I had an autoimmune issue of Hashimoto's with my thyroid. When I went through years of chronic pain and thinking that it was just all this randomness, instead of actually having a mixed connective tissue disorder, I wasn't believed. And I'm a medical doctor and I am a scientist and I am a smart person, right? And you are too. It's interesting the uphill battle that us as patients have had to fight had to be believed that so many different things can be wrong and so many things can be tied together. And how many of you have experienced that, right? Corey says my thyroid was 100%, right? Affected. Lori says have autoimmune thyroid. Autoimmune thyroid is totally linked to a lot of these issues. And I have a hint, Lori and Corey, is that if your immune system is attacking your thyroid, like me as a germ, that's a hormone making cell. What do you think is the likelihood it's going to mistake other hormone making cells, like your ovaries, right? Like your adrenals, like your pancreas that makes insulin? How frequently do you think your immune system makes a mistake and start attacking all these other hormone making organs so that we don't just have a autoimmune thyroid problem, right? We actually have an autoimmune anti-hormone making and balancing problem. So it affects multiple organ systems. So I didn't just go into early menopause at the age of 36 by accident. I went into it because they were targets of the immune attack. So doesn't it make sense when COVID came about that it irritated my immune system and attacked those systems even worse? Okay, does that make sense? And Jill says Hashimoto's attacks the whole body. It's not that Hashimoto's attacks the whole body, it's that her body's attacking her thyroid and it's also attacking many other places in her body. Her immune system is attacking her whole body, right? Great. So let's head this back to POTS because we're here to solve POTS, right? So I said in the beginning that POTS is a solvable problem, and so is long haul. And the answer is going to be how. And I've had so many different training series that went into how to solve POTS. I even did a workshop recently. We even had a case study. Sanaya was on about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And we were talking about her case where, she was 24 years old, Yale student, planning on being in studies to be a healthcare nurse practitioner. And she only had a history of irritable bowel syndrome from young age. And then suddenly when the big C happened, guess what happened? She went into full blown 3 years of hell with POTS symptoms. And within the 3 months prior to her meeting me, she was in the ER. Guess how many times? 16 times. Guess for what? Rapid heart rate, blood pressure changes, fainting, right? Dizziness, vertigo. This isn't a small deal. This is a big deal. And she had been, at Yale, and being a nurse, training to be a nurse practitioner herself, went through all the conventional medicine route. But the thing is, patients like Sanaya and patients like many of you here with these cardiac symptoms end up going in the emergency room, end up being told your labs are normal, EKG is normal, or you may end up going to the cardiologist and end up with the medication or being told you have salt. And that worked. We don't need to talk. So let's go back to how I have had a lot of discussion around how to fix POTS. And I had a workshop around that. Here's what I'm going to tell you. There's many tools with which I can fix POTS. If you want to get the training series on how to do that, put POTS series in the chat. We will get you the multi-part training series. And I even did a POTS workshop, 3 weeks ago, where I went, how many people attended the POTS workshop I did, where I actually went over these root causes, right? If you're interested in getting a replay of the POTS workshop, or you could also put that in chat, POTS workshop, and we'll see what we can do here for you. But long and short of it is, I want to go back to the word dysautonomia, where people say, well, I'm going to tell you very clearly, not a heart problem. Okay, does not belong to cardiologist's office. But many of you went just to be ruled out, not a heart problem. Well, then what is it? Well, is the nervous, we just mentioned that there's a link with autoimmunity. So there's something with the immune system that's being hyper irritated by the big C virus, right? And guess what it's attacking? Okay, many different systems. So I already mentioned that it loves to attack hormone making organs because with long haul, I've done thousands of cases of testing on thyroid, ovarian hormones, adrenal hormones. I will tell you right now that infection is a huge trigger for total chaos with these hormone making organs. Why? Because they're infected. Okay. So the big C isn't just an ear, nose, and throat or respiratory thing. It actually is a super infection because it infects the gut. It impacts on digestion. It infects your hormone making organs. It even infects like the pancreas, which regulates blood sugar. And this is why people with that, with long haul, have a lot of blood sugar problems. And diabetics who get the big C will have a lot worsening of blood sugar problems because it's actually attacking their hormone making system. And then on top of that, guess what is the most common target of big C? It's your nervous system. Remember, we were going back to what dysautonomia is, which is we have the autonomic nervous system here, and it's a balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And for some reason, and I'm going to tell you what that reason is, the parasympathetic nervous system is not able to come up to meet the firing of the sympathetic nervous system. And when the sympathetic nervous system fires like crazy like this, you get fight or flight. You get adrenaline. You get adrenal hormones with cortisol, adrenaline, all these inflammatory factors going up. And that is unchecked by the parasympathetic nervous system. So now what we have autoimmune link, we have a hormonal link. And now what I'm here to tell you is one of the targets of that virus or the autoimmune attack is actually the autonomic nervous system. So when you start to understand that, then it becomes a really solvable problem because, well, for me, what are the ways that you can actually turn off or calm down autoimmune attack? Hundreds of tools, right? And which is why, like, I think about Sanaya's case, right? Within a matter of 2 months, I mean, I actually, hold on one second. Give me a second here. Okay, so Sanaya, in her case, this is what she said, because I just interviewed her, and her interview will be posted shortly. She said, within 4 months, my life did a complete 180. She was able to, and we're going to, when you asked about how, for her case, she said that she realized, not all food actually, but she realized for her, based on the data that we collected and her going through her specific data and her education, she found out for her gluten, canola seed oil, and eggs were food super triggers, not everything else that she was told to eliminate. She found out hormone imbalances, right? I'm quoting her. She says, I had the hormone profile of an 83-year-old. This is what happens when you have the big C infecting your hormone making organs, right? There you go. And she said, boy, oh boy, the blood sugar swings, realizing just how big the blood sugar swings was happening and causing these sympathetic and parasympathetic imbalance was huge for her. And then number 4, she said the link between digestion issues. Remember I said the big C loves to infect the gut and impact on digestion. So there is so many pieces here that are connected. So I have case study after case study after case study that ties all these pieces together. And today what I really wanted to do was to point out, just based on the latest research, how it backs up what I've been talking about all along. And so research sleuths out there, I mean, what's this helpful going over actually the study, the mechanisms involved, the studies building on the case, the link between autoimmune and POTS, right? And the one thing I didn't go into even is how is POTS autoimmunity linked with people who have mast cell activation syndrome or histamine intolerance or worsening allergies, right? So that could be a topic for another day. If you guys would love to hear me talk more, let's say on the facts, the solutions, or studies around mast cell activation syndrome, histamine intolerance, and the link with POTS or dysautonomia, hit me up like in the chat in the comments. I would love to know if there's an interest there. In the meantime, a couple things. I just want to say that if any of this rings true for you and you're ready to solve this, meaning like Sanaya said, within 4 months, my life is completely 180 after 3 years of hell. And, you know, she says, I went back from needing help to go to the shower, and now I'm applying for jobs and I'm going back to school. So congratulations to Sanaya. And this is a solvable problem, but it really requires an understanding. Now you have everybody who has watched this live review the study with me have a better understanding of this than any of the doctors you've ever seen, period. Okay. And I love giving this level of education and connections and ahas for you, because I'm here to build your medical self-confidence here. Okay. And I think that there is no tools out there for people dealing with these chronic disease, autoimmune issues, hormone issues, and long haul. To what are the tools out there? And I was just talking to Carrie earlier today, and I was saying, like, what we invest in college education, we invest in schools, in painting programs, hobby programs, but people, there is nothing that was really here to raise people's level of education, awareness, and confidence around the solution to the medical mystery, which isn't a mystery at all. So I love being able to solve these problems. And there are many case studies, not just Anaya's, but I think about Kara's case study, Amber Y's case study. We have, and Kelly's case study. We have so many case studies of the hundreds of individuals that I've worked with. And we are almost up to 900. We're about, I think 876 was the last count of the number of cases of POTS, dysautonomia, and long haul that I have solved. So not medical mysteries, just really cases where doctors haven't been able to put this together, right? So yeah, Andrea says, oh, I like this. Andrea said, yes, please. I just got diagnosed with mast cell and even came up allergic to metals. I've eliminated all foods and still vomiting with high histamine. Exactly. That's another thing. Another one of those misunderstood, but yet totally connected to POTS and autoimmune issues is mast cell and histamine intolerance, right? And then Courtney said, anything on celiac, Dr. Maggie? I am suffering with so many symptoms and have no answers because it isn't just celiac, right? Courtney, this is a really great example. I don't know. I think it was you who mentioned the thyroid. And if it was you, great. If it wasn't, I'm just going to tell you, you're like every case of celiac I've ever worked with. It isn't just celiac. Celiac just happens to be one of the targets of a highly triggered immune attack. But celiac has tons of other targets of autoimmune attack, like brain, like hormones, like thyroid, like nerves. So neuropathy, headache, those are some real nerve pain, numbness, tingling, chronic pain are really commonly all part of celiac. Celiac isn't a autoimmune disorder of the gut. That just happens to be one of the areas of attack. So I just wanted to connect these dots, Courtney. I hope that was helpful, right? Awesome. Perfect, everybody. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be signing off in a bit. So I have loved all of you that have played full out. And this has been helpful for you. You have one big aha. I would love for you to type one thing that you learned, one big aha, one boom moment, one takeaway that you have that was new. I am a medical doctor. I am a scientist, and I am a research nerd. So I love going through these articles with you and showing you, based on research and science, what are medical facts that are now building what I've been saying all along and what you've been thinking and saying all along. And I'm going to tell you, you're right. And I'm here to tell you, this is how we collectively can raise our self-trust and our self-confidence. And you need this. You need this because you are smarter than they are. You do know more about this than they do. I promise you do. Okay, everybody, that is a wrap. And if you are needing to solve any of these autoimmune chronic health symptoms, or you want to just learn more about what it's like to work with us, you can book a call with our team, and there is a link in the chat that I have for you, as well as you can use that QR code. The other thing is, if you want to see a replay of the POTS workshop that I just did about 3 weeks ago, put POTS workshop in chat. And I also have a multi-part POTS training series that are short video format that goes through, and it's delivered via email, that goes through all these different aspects that I've just talked about. And it was a lot. So without further ado, everybody, that was wonderful. Everybody who's watching can give me a boom in chat. And if there's anybody, I'm going to have one ask of you. If you enjoyed and you learned something from this, help me share and raise awareness around this, because it is ridiculous just the amount of people that have long haul, that have POTS, dysautonomia, or chronic illness of any kind that are being medically gaslit. So feel free, please share with 1 or 2 other people. That'd be fantastic. All right, everybody, that's a wrap. Have a wonderful night, everybody. See you guys in the next week or 2.